Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jack. Back at it again to talk about the latest tuning notes that WoW had just posted Friday night, November 22nd. And first, we're going to go over the healer stuff, and then we're going to talk about some of the other buffs and nerfs going on, especially those two things like Enhancement Shaman and Prot Paladins, which could be changing the meta around a little bit. Resto Druid getting a 25% buff to their Swiftmen healing is kind of cool, but it seems like our Druid's still kind of in that position where it's their single target healing that's able to get better and or is actually feeling strong. And then when you have to deal with lots of burst AoE on everybody all at once, it's starting to lack more. And that's a big advantage the Disc Priest has over a lot of healers. And just more Swiftmen healing. Huzzah. Kind of surprised by it, but I mean, this is like round 4 or 5 for Resto Druid buffs going on into the expansion, so we can only hope, because I think they're one of the least represented healers from last I saw, especially in a high key environment. We had a couple other changes, notably Mage has actually been getting some buffs, but Mistweaver got a slight increase to their damage at a Courage of the White Tiger for Conduit the Celestials. This one's kind of interesting because the better damage-oriented build is definitely Master of Harmony right now. So it seems like they're kind of just keeping it up and buffed up, since they're also buffing Windwalker at the same time. So it's kind of just like a cleave buff onto Mistweaver to sort of keep up with it in the mix. But Master of Harmony definitely still seems like the better damage-oriented build. Holy Priest actually got some buffs. Nice to see. Serenity Healing and Sanctify Healing both increased by 25%. Notably, I think Holy has been one of the lowest healers, if I'm not mistaken, onto Warcraft logs kind of for a while now in Nerebar Palace healing statistics. And obviously, it's one of the least represented healers as well. Yeah, you can even see it right here. It's been lagging behind for kind of a long time. I think most of this season, it's actually been lagging behind a lot of the other healers. So finally getting to see some buffs kind of coming into the mix for it is nice to see. Sanctify especially needs to be feeling very strong in like a dungeon environment. I'm fine with it not being too all-powerful in a raid environment, because you basically just like mash the button and only focus on generating it, even if you were casting like no strength per of healings back in Dragonflight. Kind of did away with that, but at least it's nice to be able to get some kind of buffs going on into the mix. Resto Shaman, kind of getting another cleave buff. Same thing with what happened to Mistweaver, where they were getting buffs in Windwalker for their hero talents. Elemental's Farseer setup is getting their Chain Lightning and Lava Burst damage increased. So too is Farseer Resto Shaman. Farseer Resto Shaman is like insanely high damage build, really, really active damage. And so it's amazing damage if you can sit there and DPS the entire time, notably having a slower amount of cast per minute that as a shaman as you might have from like a Disc or Mistweaver or Paladin, something like that. But when a shaman gets the opportunity to cast, they're going to be hitting like a truck. That being said, not really anything is being done to further streamline Farseer and make it more playable for shamans in like a dungeon environment. And so you have like all these chores you're basically maintaining with Unleash, with Healing Rain in both 15-second and 10-second cooldowns respectively, that you have to be like managing and playing around, and you don't really get a lot of time to actively damage. So cool that the damage gets a little bit better, but we'll see how that goes. Interestingly enough, there's been some good, possibly meta-changing or meta-adjusting type of buffs coming into the mix. Enhanced catching a couple of nerfs. Their Maelstrom weapon spenders reduced by 8% to lower their overall damage output. Notably, Enhanced has been really, really nuts. I'm very interested in seeing what's happening with some of these tank changes coming into the mix. Notably, Prot Warrior, getting some damage reduction increases and everything like that, which is nice to be able to see. Although it felt like they were always really tanky from my perspective as a healer. Prot Paladin getting some very substantial nerfs to the amount of damage they're providing to the group. Big thing with Divine Inspiration is not proccing additional armaments. Could be very interesting, especially when it comes to things like Sacred Weapon and having like Tempered in Battle for your team. Notably, if you haven't seen Tempered in Battle, it is right here, where you actually are giving your ally a weapon, and when you have given them that sword, it'll actually start health redirecting between like you and your target. And so that's really insane extra utility that a Prot Paladin can bring to a group. Also can lead to some silly deaths, but That's notably a really interesting utility aspect that Prop Paladin brings. And if you're proccing a couple less weapons in the mix, that might be bringing down the amount of health redirect that's coming in throughout the dungeon. But you're also getting some reduced damage for Divine Guidance, Forged Reckoning, Refining Fire. And Prop Paladin notably has made so many things easier in a high key environment because of how much damage that they're able to deal, substantially more than you're seeing out of a lot of other tanks. And so all these changes are also pretty heavily featuring damage buffs to a few of the other tanks. Notably, Guardian Druid getting some increased damage out of their Shred, Swipe, and Mangle with Druid of the Claw. And we also were seeing some more damage buffs coming in for Blood DK with Reaper's Mark, Exterminate damage, Wave of Souls. I don't think that these damage buffs are so heavy that they're going to like outweigh some of the big strengths that Prop Paladin has, but it's nice that they're trying to bring things a little bit closer together, I would say. I'm honestly very surprised that they're not trying to go a little bit further with this. And it makes me wonder what other kind of changes they might be doing going into like December's 1107 patch that they have going on. I feel like this is like the real time for them to see what's working, what's not working, because at the moment the leaderboards have just been like dominated by Prop Paladin. I'm actually kind of surprised that Dis didn't catch any nerfs onto this one. I think the output that they bring, especially in burst AoE situations, is insane. And there's some healers, it's kind of like a healing profile dominated meta in a lot of ways, where Disc brings this phenomenal burst output, and not really many other healers can match that. Notably, like Resto Druid, Holy Priest bring such single target focused output that when you have Alarming Shrill going off in a high-level Arakara, everyone's getting pounded at the same exact time. It's a little bit tougher to keep up. Same thing with like Dawnbreakers and Nubakaj AoEs, the Rashanan AoE at the very end. Those areas are so heavily focused on like how well you can heal everybody at once together. And not in every dungeon season is going to be like that, but I'm kind of surprised that there's not more being done from that healing point of view to start bringing those things together. Since output at the end of the day is usually one of the highest like metrics that determines what is going to be meta, what's not going to be meta. If you just kill things faster or heal things more easily, that's a big part of the reason why the Prop Paladin nerfs, for example, are damage focused, why a lot of the tank buffs are damage focused, and because there's not really a lot of ways that they're going to be able to like adjust utility tools, especially mid-season. So a little bit interested about that. But what do you guys think is like the healer that got left out the most on this one? I'd honestly kind of argue that Holy Paladin might be in a number of different ways, but I'm curious as to what you guys think. I'm glad Holy Priest finally got some buffs. I think this is like the third video we've done where they were left out up until now. So that's always going to be good to see. But thanks for checking out the quick update that we got for the healer tuning notes. Let me know what you guys want to see for the next round of healer tuning notes. Big thanks to our patrons who make all the content possible. And I'll catch y'all guys next time.